is slightly different twist. Not the three what you think would be the best albums of all time. What are your three personal favourite albums? I think it adds a more, personal feel to it, rather than, because it could easily say, the Beatles, Sgt. Pepper's, number one, fantastic album, and I understand if that is your choice because it's a great album, but it's just so kind of an easy answer. Are you going to choose this album, Adam?
No, I'm close though.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I completely understand what you're saying. Like, it's very easy to say, sort of objectively, like, this is the greatest album of all time, but it might mean nothing to me. Do you know what I mean? It's done wonders for music, but it means nothing to me. So yeah, I completely understand your point. Yeah, fantastic. Let's dive straight into this. Like, give us your top three, Greg.
Okay, cool. So you can definitely say that my albums are definitely not within the top 100, probably. I wish they were, but they mean a lot to me. They mean a lot to me, and they sort of mark big moments in my musical history, I guess. So the first album, and this is the album that got me into music, and I'm so lucky to actually be able to pinpoint this one, I feel like, because I grew up in a very non-musical house. I think that I remember one holiday we went to France during a heat wave. I don't know why I remember that. And in the car, we had the single Shaggy single in the car. Oh, and it stayed in the car the entire holiday. So it wasn't me. It wasn't me. So
yeah.
And that's the kind of stuff. There was no one wanted to change it. It was just this one single on loop, about 3 songs probably.
I thought you were about to go for Shaggy Majuli, Greg, for pick number 1 then.
Usually when you get a single as well, it's usually the single, and then there's some terrible remix.
And
then there's like an instrumental version with no singing.
That's all it was, mate. That's all it was.
Oh, Jesus.
In this boiling hot car in the south of France somewhere, I think. Anyway, so that's just, I want to give you the context here. I didn't grow up in a very musical family. Anyway, I listened to this album, and the album is Green Day, American Idiot.
Nice.
And it's a great album. I don't go back to it as much as maybe I should do, but it's a 2 CD album, I think, and it had some really big epic like segue tunes where it almost like musical vibe, and they had, like you guys were talking about, with a very clear idea of the album and the look and the sort of theme of it. And it was great. The drumming, the music was great on it. Just punk rock, pop punk, and really, really enjoyed it. And that opened my eyes to music in general.
Just great tunes as well. Just
some seriously good songs. Yeah.
They still hit.
Some really good songs. So many good songs on that one album, really, of Green Day. And I wasn't a massive fan of their earlier stuff generally. If I listened back to it, same with Blink 182 actually. That the more poppy punk stuff I really liked, but the more original punk I wasn't keen on. But anyway, the second album was then I've this is only a few years later, but I've now got an interest in music. I'm listening to stuff, I'm trying to find my way, and I listened to my first ever Foo Fighters album, and it was actually probably not their best album, but it was the first one I heard, and it was Nothing Left to Lose, their third one. And this is the one with Taylor Hawkins, where he's actually drumming on it for the first time. So the previous 2 albums, Dave had done all the drums. And
what's the cover on that one?
The one with the tattoo on the back of his neck.
Okay.
So the one with Breakout and Learn to Fly On. Those are the 2 sort of big ones. And yeah, I listened to that and I just instantly fell in love. Breakout I loved so much because it had that really sort of double chorus at the end where he's just screaming Breakout, and I absolutely loved it. That sort of appealed to the sort of angsty teen in me at the time, I guess. And instantly put Dave Grohl on my radar. And George will know this throughout school. He was my idol, still is now. And but also put Taylor Hawkins, the drummer, on my radar as well as a fantastic drummer, who he definitely is. I think anyone would agree with that.
Yeah.
As the second album, even though they're relatively close and not particularly that far apart musically, I still have to give them homage, really, because one of them got me into music, the other one sort of steered me in the right direction.
Nice.
And the third album, and I wish these albums were a little bit more sort of critically acclaimed, but is actually a Zac Brown band album.
Of course it is.
Nice.
And this is, again, their third one, funnily enough, but it's called Uncaged. And this was my entry into country music. which I love to this day. And, I wanted to say maybe Eagles' greatest hits, or I don't know, something cooler like that. But I have to be honest, Zac Brown Band, they did it. The musicality in that band is fantastic. The harmonies is really what I wanted to talk about, because it got me really interested in singing again. I used to sing quite a lot when I was younger, at primary school and stuff, and I didn't really do it, and it wasn't cool when I was at college. And the harmonies in these albums, man, are just unbelievable. Again, Eagles, really, you can listen to them and get the same vibe. They just will blow your mind, and they're another instrument in themselves. They add to the song so much. Yeah. And in my opinion, the harmonies, if you've got a band that's tight with harmonies, like the Beatles and these kind of big bands, it separates them from everyone else. Instantly just makes them better. So yeah, they're my 3 albums. I'll stop talking now because I know we haven't got a huge amount of time. But yeah, and they mean a lot to me. So yeah, there we go.
I love it.
Yeah, fantastic. 3 great choices there. Excellent stuff. You know what? And in fact, all 3... I need to re-listen to. I guess I know American Idiot a little bit from when I was a teenager, but the other 2 I need a good listen to. So I've immediately put them on my Spotify to listen to.
Awesome.
They're on there. So George, what have you got for me, mate? What am I putting on my Spotify to listen to list?
Oh, you won't regret this. You will not regret this, Adam. Let me tell you. So this artist, his work, decades of excellence. Pioneering, innovative ideas, stood the test of time.
Oh God, who is it?
It's Gary Newman, of course.
No, it's Music for Chameleons. I love it.
Yeah.
What is it? Which album?
No, it's not actually. I was going to say Pleasure Principle, but so a bit of a side story. I've actually seen Gary Newman 13 times.
No way. How? I've not seen my own band 13 times. How have you seen Gary Newman 13 times?
Yeah, I'm baffled as well. And Greg came to one of them as well, didn't you?
I came to one of them, mate. Yeah, I know exactly why. It's because your uncle is like his biggest fan. Yeah. So
there's a name for the fans of Gary Newman. They're called Newmanoids.
No way.
So my one of my dad's best friends, he literally worships Gary Newman, and he's been going to every single gig, every single tour. 3 times a tour. He'll go to Southampton, London, Brighton. He'll do 3 of them on one leg of the tour.
Yeah,
absolutely obsessed. So when I was about 14, 15, I was just getting into music at the time, and Mike said, "Do you want to come to Portsmouth? Do you want to come see Gary Newman?" At the time, you're thinking, yeah, this is probably my first ever proper gig, I think. Of course I want to go see live music. Let's go. So we go along to this gig, and Newman just plays all of his new stuff. It's none of the Cars, none of the Our Friends Electric. It's just this whole new concept album he's come up with.
Yeah.
And I stood at the front, and I hated every second of it. It wasn't for me at all. It was really it was painful. But
can I just sorry to interject. I just need to ask Adam. So here in my car, da, 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 wa, na, na, na. That classic tune, right? Yeah. So what do you think a Gary Newman fan looks like? Judging by his back catalogue, what do you reckon?
I mean, I'm guessing he's straight out of the Duran Duran era, new wave, dark hair, dark eyeliner, a pastel suit. That sort of new wave vibe.
It's like that, but crossed with a goth and just a lot more leather and
No
way more eyeliner. Yeah, dude, it's a weird combination. When I went to see them, I was exactly picturing what you're thinking of, and it was like a metal. I could have been at a metal gig.
Honestly,
no way.
Yeah. Nail on the head, Greg. They say it's like a metal crowd. Big leather, big boots, big goth boots.
What?
It's mad.
It's so weird. I don't know what's going on.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, this first gig, I came away from it, and we're driving home, and Mike says to me, almost like a proud uncle, he's like, "How was that? Did you enjoy that? Brilliant, wasn't it?" I just didn't have the heart to tell him that I hated it. I couldn't do it. So I said, "Yeah, Mike, loved it. It was so good, wasn't it?" Fast forward a year later, Gary Newman was doing his annual tour around the south. And then Mike comes around one day after work, and he pops in to say hello, and he's like, but guess what, George? No, you loved the first gig so much. I got you some tickets for the next one.
A classic. You've said you like something once, and then
you dig
one
yourself
person.
that hole, mate. Oh,
Yeah,
Jesus.
that's it. So sure enough, off we go to the second one, just as bad as the first one.
Oh, God.
And then I couldn't tell him. So third year comes around, got me tickets again. I think by this point I was like 17, 18, so I could actually have a beer at the gig. And so I had a beer or two, and I was like, well, actually, like 3-4 pints in, this isn't too bad, to be fair.
It's the classic thing of like, if you listen to an album 2 or 3 times, you're probably going to like it a lot more than you did the first time, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I started to recognise the
It's
song.
the same thing. You watch Gary Newman 3 times, you're going to end up liking him more than the first time.
That's it. And by the 4th or 5th, I was hooked. I loved him.
Amazing. I'm not going to ask which number you're on now.
Yeah, I mean, I went and saw him in Toronto on my own when I lived there. So.
No way. That's amazing.
Oh, fair play.
Fully converted. But I'm a Numenoid. That's
Nice.
Christ.
confession.
Okay, so he's not even
sorry,
he's not
yeah,
even on your
I
list.
rambled.
So who's your
Sorry, man. I went off on a tangent there. So I went for one when, as a kid growing up, just this music was just being played 24/7 all the time. It was on the music videos, with the vinyls, with the CDs.
Yes.
It was Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
And it was Bad. Bad was the one that really stood out for me growing up. Just even to this day, I look back and Bad. I mean, Thriller's obviously a masterpiece, but Bad for me is 5 years after Thriller. How he managed to follow that with an album which had just as many sort of hits. Just the weight of expectation, the hype around that thing, to put it out and still absolutely deliver, and everything about it, the look of the album, the tour, the music videos, and it went a bit more, not darker, but sort of rock influences, like kind of some, Slash was playing guitar on some of the songs, I think. Or if not, it was getting more sort of, just, I don't know, just really a blend of different music genres, and I think he really stood up as the absolute ultimate pop star at that point, unrivaled to really anyone, I think, personally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, big time.
Just so Bad sticks out growing up, and it's still to this day, absolutely love it.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 is it's a bit of a silly album, and I re-listened to it this morning, and it's ridiculous. It's bombastic. The music, the songs. It's Appetite for Destruction, Guns N' Roses.
Yeah,
yes,
it's just
album.
it's just so over the top. Listening to it again, I was like, it's just so it captured that 80s heavy metal. Put it in a bottle kind of thing, and that's what you get, and I love it. It's all the songs are ridiculous, over the top, massive guitar solos, 5-minute, 6-minute songs. Just love it. 2 or 3 guitar solos in some songs, brilliant. But can I ask you, you two Guns N' Roses fans, or do you ever listen to the album?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that was a teenage classic for me.
Yeah,
I loved
it.
I completely missed out the sort of grungy, emo, punk, like any of those sort of like satellite rock genres that I should have been listening to at that time, and I was just straight down the middle, like 70s and 80s rock. I was like Guns N' Roses, Van Halen, Zeppelin, just straight ahead 80s metal, basically. So
it's fun.
that was AC/DC. That was my bag for sure.
Yeah,
great choice, man.
And then finally, an album that just for me personally, just I'll always go back to it, love it to bits. I think they sort of captured so much, I don't know, colour in the music. I think it's a beautiful album. It's 1975. You ready for the title?
The 1975.
I like it when you sleep, because you're so beautiful yet so unaware of it.
Horrendous.
Mate, as if you went for the second one.
Yeah, weirdly. I don't know. For me, the first one's great. I love it as well, and I didn't think I would love them even more. So I was absolutely all over the first album, all over the EPs.
Yeah,
and they were my, absolutely loved them to bits. And then this album came out and just took it to another level. Don't know how. Just I think they added the 80s kind of R&B fusion. And just some of the songs on it just still, love them to bits. So. That album,
mate, we're going to have a little 1975 session like off air because
Yeah.
I'm a massive